HIV, or human immunodeficiency virus, has been a significant global health issue for decades, and despite tremendous advances in medical treatment and awareness, the battle against this virus continues. Some states in the United States are hit harder than others when it comes to HIV infection rates. In this video, we will explore the top 10 states with the highest HIV rates, ranked from the state with the lowest to the state with the highest rate. These rates are based on the number of new HIV diagnoses per 100,000 people. And we will also dive into what factors are contributing to these alarming statistics. Let's uncover the current situation and understand the challenges that these states face. Number 10. Georgia. Current HIV rate 23.7 new diagnoses per 100,000 people. Georgia ranks 10th among US states with the highest rates of new HIV diagnoses. The state's capital, Atlanta, has been particularly impacted, earning a reputation as one of the cities with the highest HIV rates in the country. High-risk groups in Georgia include African American men who have sex with men, as well as young people between the ages of 18 and 24. The HIV rate in the state is compounded by factors such as poverty, lack of access to health care, and limited HIV prevention programs in rural areas. Efforts are being made in Georgia to raise awareness and provide better access to HIV testing, but stigma and inadequate healthcare resources in certain regions continue to be major barriers. Community-based organizations are working to provide resources, education, and access to life-saving medications, but new HIV diagnoses still persist at an alarmingly high rate. Number 9. Louisiana. Current HIV rate 26.4 new diagnoses per 100,000 people. Louisiana ranks 9th on our list, and New Orleans in particular has been a hotspot for the HIV epidemic. The state has high rates of new HIV diagnoses among African Americans, especially African American women. The combination of socioeconomic challenges, including high poverty rates and inadequate healthcare access, has contributed to the state's high HIV rates. Rural areas are also struggling, with residents facing barriers to getting tested and treated for HIV. Louisiana is working hard to combat this crisis, but challenges such as limited funding for HIV education and prevention programs persist. However, grassroots organizations in New Orleans and Baton Rouge are trying to reduce stigma, provide more HIV testing sites, and educate at-risk populations about prevention, such as the importance of condom use and the option of pre-exposure prophylaxis. Number 8. Florida. Current HIV rate 28.9 new diagnoses per 100,000 people. Florida is home to many large urban areas, including Miami, which has one of the highest HIV rates in the nation. While the state has made progress in some areas of HIV prevention and treatment, Florida still has a significant number of new diagnoses every year. The rate of HIV in the state is especially high among young people, African American men, and Latino communities. There are also significant barriers to care in some areas of Florida, particularly in rural parts of the state where access to testing and treatment is limited. While organizations are working to expand access to care, especially for those most at risk, the state continues to face challenges in reducing transmission rates. Florida has made strides by offering free HIV testing and raising awareness about the importance of early diagnosis, but the overall number of new HIV diagnoses is still a major concern. Number 7. South Carolina. Current HIV rate 30.7 new diagnoses per 100,000 people. South Carolina is ranked 7th for HIV rates in the US and faces similar challenges to many other southern states. The largest concentration of HIV diagnoses is found in the state's urban centers, including Charleston and Columbia. African Americans are disproportionately affected by HIV in South Carolina, especially young men and women. Socioeconomic factors, lack of access to healthcare, and widespread stigma continue to drive the high rates of HIV in the state. The state has been working to reduce the number of new diagnoses by increasing the availability of HIV testing and improving the access to healthcare for those living with the virus. Number 6. Nevada. Current HIV rate 31.6 new diagnoses per 100,000 people. Nevada, especially the city of Las Vegas, ranks 6th on our list of states with the highest HIV rates. The virus is widespread among young people. The rapid growth of the state's population, combined with the prevalence of high-risk behaviors like substance abuse, has contributed to the high rate of new HIV diagnoses. Rural areas in Nevada also face significant health disparities, with many residents not having access to HIV care or testing. Local organizations have been working to provide education about prevention methods, including the use of condoms and pre-exposure prophylaxis. But more needs to be done to combat the virus effectively in the state. Number 5. Mississippi. Current HIV rate 33.3 new diagnoses per 100,000 people. Mississippi has one of the highest HIV rates in the country, ranking 5th overall. The state has a particularly high rate of new diagnoses among African American women who are disproportionately affected by the virus. Mississippi also faces significant challenges when it comes to healthcare access, particularly in rural communities. The stigma surrounding HIV prevents many people from getting tested or seeking treatment until it's too late. In response to the high HIV rates, Mississippi has introduced a number of awareness campaigns and education programs designed to reach vulnerable populations. There is an increased focus on HIV testing, particularly in communities of color, as well as efforts to reduce the stigma around the virus. However, these efforts are often hindered by a lack of funding and political resistance to expanded healthcare services. Number 4. Texas. Current HIV rate 34.1 new diagnoses per 100,000 people. Texas ranks 4th among U.S. states with the highest HIV rates. The state's large population and the diverse range of communities it includes contribute to the varying rates of HIV seen throughout the state. Cities like Houston and Dallas are heavily impacted, with large populations of men who have sex with men, African Americans, and Latino individuals who are at higher risk of HIV. In Texas, there are significant barriers to healthcare access, especially in rural areas. Some residents may not have access to HIV care, testing, or even preventative treatments like PrEP. Although Texas has worked to increase HIV awareness and testing, conservative policies regarding healthcare expansion have made it harder to fully address the problem. Despite this, local advocacy groups continue to push for more education, better access to HIV testing, and improved healthcare resources to help combat the epidemic. Number 3. North Carolina. Current HIV rate 35.2 new diagnoses per 100,000 people. North Carolina ranks 3rd on the list, with cities like Charlotte and Raleigh seeing significant rates of HIV transmission. The state struggles with a higher than average HIV rate, particularly among African American men who have sex with men and younger people. North Carolina has seen an increase in HIV diagnoses over recent years, and there are several factors contributing to this trend, including limited access to HIV care and testing in rural communities. Efforts to reduce HIV transmission in North Carolina are underway, with initiatives focused on education, prevention, and better access to HIV medications. However, stigma remains a significant barrier, and there is a need for more widespread access to testing and treatment across the state. Despite the challenges, the state is slowly making progress in combating the HIV epidemic. Number 2. California. Current HIV rate 36.9 new diagnoses per 100,000 people. California ranks 2nd for the highest HIV rates in the US, with the highest concentrations found in major cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco. California has long been at the forefront of HIV awareness and prevention, but its large population and diverse communities make it a complex challenge to address. Men who have sex with men, African Americans, and Latinos are particularly affected by the virus. The state's healthcare system has been working to reduce transmission rates by increasing access to PrEP, HIV testing, and treatment. However, the state still faces challenges with high-risk populations, particularly among young people and communities of color. Number 1. Washington, D.C. Current HIV rate 73.1 new diagnoses per 100,000 people. At number 1, Washington, D.C. has the highest HIV rate in the country, significantly surpassing the rest of the states. While Washington, D.C. is not a state, it is included in health data due to its large population and unique status. The high HIV rate in the city is primarily concentrated among African American men who have sex with men. But women, especially those in high-risk groups, are also significantly impacted. Factors contributing to Washington, D.C.'s high HIV rates include high levels of poverty, limited access to healthcare, and a lack of awareness about HIV prevention and testing. Despite being a major political and cultural center, the city has struggled to reduce transmission rates. Washington, D.C. continues to prioritize its fight against HIV, with the goal of achieving 0 new infections. The HIV epidemic continues to challenge many states in the U.S., with certain areas being hit harder than others. While the rate of new HIV diagnoses has decreased in some regions, the fight is far from over. Increased access to care, testing, education, and the reduction of stigma are all key elements in the battle against this virus. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more in-depth information on important health topics. Let's continue the conversation and keep fighting for a healthier future.